Okay, if Sega are known for one thing, it's building up a lot of excitement and then disappointing us. We're talking about you, buddy. For now, I'm just going to ignore Sonic Blitz because in my mind it just doesn't exist. The real topic of today's video is the alleged Sonic Heroes remake. Seeing as this was backed by really credible leakers, people had so much faith in this, but now faith has been dwindling recently. And Takashi Iizuka claiming that they're not planning on making any remakes, especially of the adventure games, doesn't help at all. So I decided to throw in the towel with this video and not make anything. But recently it came to mind, how would they go about doing this? Because trust me, there are so many ways that this Heroes remake could have been special. It could have been something that revitalized the franchise in a way that Frontiers couldn't have even done. But it could also be the thing that nearly kills the franchise again. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about things that Sega should definitely avoid if they want to remake any of the Rind-Rummed era of Sonic games, as well as talking about ideas that I think would be quite good. Because let's face it, remakes of the adventure games would have to be really, really good in order for them to be appreciated by the fans. So why don't we start talking about all these things that are very important and vital to making a Sonic Adventure / Sonic Adventure 2 / Sonic Heroes remake. Let's get into this. One element of consistency that most Sonic games seem to have had for the last 17 years is their character models. Like seriously, can you tell which Sonic game the one I just put on screen is from? You probably could, it was Sonic Unleashed. Usually people really want consistency when it comes to Sonic games. Yeah, this isn't one of those occasions. You see, modern Sonic is so clapped that people just don't want to see him anymore. And if Sega were to go with this design for not just Sonic but all other characters in a Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Heroes remake, people would not be happy. Sega would have to work from the ground up and create something that really resembles the Dreamcast era but through a modern lens. I know this is a tied trope at this point, but I'd actually recommend looking at some fan projects for this. Certain fan renders and fan animations look incredible and capture what Sonic was originally about back in the Dreamcast era. As for Sonic Heroes, I don't really know what direction they would take. Compared to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Heroes had a bit more of a cartoony looking aesthetic with less realistic textures. I would recommend they completely lean into this, seeing as Sonic isn't very expressive anymore, and this could be their outlet for making Sonic look more like his inspiration, there being a rubber-hose cartoon character. Now for the adventure games, I imagine that if they were to remake the adventure games, they would come as a bundle. So if that's the case, then I'd recommend there be synergy between the two, that being that they would look the same. The original two Sonic Adventure games had very different looks to them. In fact, in Sonic Adventure 2, some of the humans look creepily realistic and human, and I don't really like that look. I would recommend both games have a bit more of an anime aesthetic, something similar to how Maria and Gerald Robotnik looked in Sonic X Shadow Generations. I would also recommend this look for the main Sonic cast, but in a different way. I think they should look like a 3D rendition of Yuji Iwakawa's artwork. There's this mod that replaces Sonic's model in Generations with the Yuji Iwakawa-inspired Sonic model, and that model I would just love to see in a Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2 remake. When looking at this thing, I can hear Ryan Drummond's voice in my head. The only change I would recommend is making Sonic look a little less shiny. It's funny because that was also a problem that Sonic Heroes had back in the day, but never mind. You see, there's still one more thing related to Sonic Adventure that I would like to talk about. Guys, I just exported the video before going to the next section, and I rewatched it back and realized how pixelated my footage of Sonic Generations is. I'm so sorry. It looks like crap, I'm sorry. The last thing related to Sonic Adventure I would like to talk about is this fan-made animation by Lixus the Prototype. Now this is remarkable. The 3D model and animation in this are incredibly well done, and I would love to see Sega do something like this officially if they ever remade Sonic Adventure. Oh wait, that's what this video is for. Because of how well made this is, I don't want to show or talk about too much, so please go watch the original. I'll leave a link to the description, it's incredible. Sonic Adventure through Sonic Heroes haven't aged the best when it comes to graphics. I know I'm overusing this picture, but I mean, this perfectly proves my point. Obviously, if you were a kid back in 1999 and you just got in the game on your Dreamcast, you'd probably think it looked like peak. However, 1999 was 26 years ago, and ever since then we've only seen graphical fidelity for video games increase. Using this picture of Sonic Adventure DX, one thing that sticks out to me is the really poor lighting. I know in terms of lighting, DX was a downgrade from the original Dreamcast version, but it's a shame to see, especially seeing as that this is the most accessible version of Adventure. So, how would you improve the lackluster lighting? Well, like before, I'd recommend turning to Sonic fans. What you're looking at right now is Sonic Adventure RTX.
This mod adds live ray tracing to Sonic Adventure and it looks phenomenal.
In order to run this mod and have the game going at a stable frame rate, you do need quite a powerful PC.
But it's 100% worth it for the experience of playing Sonic Adventure looking this good. However, you can still tell that the game is quite old even with this additional lighting. You've still got the low poly Dreamcast models here, not to mention the low resolution textures. So I would recommend that Sega also remake these environments. For Adventure 2, I'd just rinse and repeat what I said for Adventure 1. Add some good ray tracing, higher poly models, and high resolution textures, that's all I can say.
Oh yeah, Heroes! Due to the fact that Heroes came out on higher powered consoles compared to the Dreamcast, does mean that Heroes graphically does look superior to Adventure 1 and 2.
That doesn't mean it looks good though. I would recommend that the environments of Sonic Heroes go for less realistic textures in comparison to the Adventure remakes. That would overall fit with the game's art style a lot better. And again, the use of ray tracing could really help the game. After all, there are just some weird light sources from this game. I don't know why Sonic is so shiny, it's really weird. That's all I can really say about Sonic Adventure 1 through Sonic Heroes when it comes to graphics, so on we go to the next category. Don't change a damn thing. Ignore that I'm blatantly reusing footage, but you guys know what I mean by that, right? The level of control you have over Sonic in the adventure games is unrivaled by any Sonic game today, which is why I don't think the adventure games really need any adjustment to their physics at all. Oh my gosh, I keep on forgetting about Heroes. A lot of people will garner Heroes controls as being too slippery, and despite the fact that there is indeed a modicum of truth to this, I wouldn't like to see an adjustment to the way Heroes controls. I think once you get the hang of it, Heroes is really fun and actually has the most fun gameplay out of any Sonic game. It's just you have to dig deep to find that. The only change I would recommend is allowing the player to choose what button mappings they want. For instance, I know a lot of people would like spin dash on R2, /RT/ whatever it is on Switch, I don't care. But yeah, that's the only thing I can really think of that could do with an adjustment. Other than that, keep everything else the same. Actually, looking back on it, you could add the option to have spin dash be instant for Sonic Adventure 2, but I don't think people are going to be too upset if that isn't an option, so yeah. You notice the music change, that's because things are going to get quite intense here. This has to be the most controversial topic when it comes to them remaking Adventure. Can you imagine Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Heroes with Roger Craig Smith? No, of course you can't, because that sounds horrible. Now, it's very clear that they couldn't just reuse the original voice clips. Let's face it, the adventure games don't quite have the best voice acting in the world. So, how would they get around this? Well, from what I can imagine, there are a few ways.
But before I get into them, I do need to make it clear, using the modern cast is not one of them. Despite being a phenomenal voice actor, Roger Craig Smith's take on Sonic is not well loved by many people, especially in comparison to Ryan Drummond, so yeah, just don't do that. The first way I can think of Sega getting around this would be to get an entirely new voice cast. I know it sounds outlandish, but let's face it, that's what's most likely going to happen if they don't bring in the modern cast. And hearing new interpretations of these characters' voices after so long of having the same would be quite interesting, and may even revitalize people's interest in the franchise. It would be the first time in over 2 decades to have Mike Pollock not be the voice of Eggman. Not to mention how much discourse there's been online over the years of people talking about which voice actors they would like to hear play Sonic characters. The people want Yuri Lowenthal as Sonic, and Johnny Yong Bosch as Shadow, which let's face it, that would be really, really cool. I mean, seriously, can you imagine Sonic being voiced by Sasuke and Shadow being voiced by Ichigo? That'd be really weird. The second option would be to have the new cast mixed in with the modern cast. For example, you got Yuri Lowenthal as Sonic, and then Kalina Shaughnessy as Tails. I like to think of this as the pick and mix of all the options. You essentially pick the voices that are good and don't need replacing, and then take the voices that do need replacing and replace them. Simple. However, all of that depends on whether Sega are able to detect which voices don't fit their characters or just need replacing in general. I can't tell if Sega think Kirk Thornton is a great Shadow or not. I love Kirk Thornton in a lot of other roles, but I really hope they don't think he's a good Shadow. Let's face it, he's no David Humphrey. My next option is the one that's definitely never going to happen, which would be to bring in the old guys to do the lines again. Recently in an interview, David Humphrey, Ryan Drummond, and Scott Dreyer all admitted that they would love to come back in their roles. Not to mention the fact that Ryan Drummond has re-auditioned for the Sonic voice twice now. In the man's own words, talk about being stubborn and full of surprises. It's also clear in this interview that Ryan can still very much do the Sonic voice quite well, and with some good vocal direction he could do it spot on to the original games, but with better acting of course.
Talk about low budget flights! No food or movies? I'm outta here! I like running better! Yeah!
Despite how incredible this option sounds, there are so many drawbacks to it. The first one being that, unfortunately, not every voice from this era has the ability to return. Unfortunately, the original voice of Eggman, Dean Bristow, passed away back in 2005. They could easily get around this by reusing his original voice clip, seeing as somehow his delivery was actually quite good compared to everyone else back in those games. However, I can't say the same for Tails. Here's a picture of William Corkery, the voice of Tails in Sonic Heroes from back in 2004. And here's what he looks like now. Do you reckon he sounds the same? That goes for the two other voices of Tails from Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. It wasn't until Sonic X where we finally got someone who could consistently do the Tails voice. But yeah, Sega are sort of incapable of getting all of the people from this era. Another thing that Sega are actually capable of doing, yet refuse to do, is pay people for some reason. Earlier I mentioned how Ryan Drummond has re-auditioned for the Sonic World twice, however has been rejected. A part of the reason for that is because he refused to leave his union. What that basically translates to is Sega didn't like how they didn't have complete control over Ryan Drummond, which is why they didn't want to get him back as Sonic. And what that translates to is that means that they couldn't pay him as little as they wanted. Despite being worth billions, Sega do not want to spend a penny on anything, and this is reflected now even in Sonic Racing Crossbones, seeing as half of these characters don't have voices. I could go on, but I do have a solution to most of the problems I would mention, and that's my fourth option. That being that they pick and mix yet again, this time with the original voice actors and the modern cast. For example, Ryan Drummond as Sonic, Scott Dreyer as Knuckles, David Humphrey as Shadow, but then you have Kalina Shaughnessy as Tails, and Mike Pollock as Eggman. Again, to this day, Ryan Drummond hasn't left his union, so this is still really unlikely. However, I like to consider this the coolest option, and it does make quite a lot of sense. However, option 5 is definitely what Sega would do, and it would be to completely use the modern cast, but have an option to switch to the original voice lines. This way, if you have a problem with the modern cast, you don't have to listen to them. This is a very lazy approach, but I don't think anyone's going to be seriously complaining if it happens. I mean, no one's going to be losing sleep over it. So yeah, Sega would probably go for this. I imagine they would upscale the original audio, seeing as a lot of it is really poor quality. But that's all I can see them doing for that option. So that was that. I made the video, and I was happy with it. But now looking back, why? Why did this even happen? Takashi Iizuka has confirmed that a remake of the adventure games isn't going to happen anytime soon. It brings a tear to my eye, but it's the case. Who knows though? It wouldn't be the first time Sega went back on their word. The Dreamcast era of Sonic was many people's childhoods. Hell, until Frontiers, Sonic Heroes was the highest selling 3D Sonic game of all time. So maybe one day.